the first thing is you want to come up with some concepts for the style of the movie. And it'll vary depending on what the genre is, what the subject matter is. But you do want to be able to somehow articulate a sense of style, so that when you're standing there on the set and you say, like, all right, how am I going to light this? You have some place to go. You have some reference to draw from. You have some adjectives, and so that every day, because the process stretches out over weeks or months or whatever, and every day you want to be able to have those ideas, those concepts that you can go back to, so that the stuff that you shot on the first day feels like it's part of the same movie that you shot, as the stuff that you're shooting on the last day. And part of that is about going through the script. Since everything gets shot out of order, the thing you shoot on the first day may be, cut right, maybe the scene right after the thing that you shot on the last day, or right before. You never know. And so you want to be able to have some sort of consistency in your vision. So the first thing I do is I go through the script, and it just forces it. I force myself to deal with what is this giving us? What are the problems we're going to have to solve? And what's the look I want? How do I want to make this look? And so I try to work through for myself, each scene. I make notes for myself. And I try to, I take a long time doing it. I'll do it over the course of days, and I definitely don't do it all at once, because at the end, you may start writing down, oh, I have an idea for a beautiful dolly shot, and then 3 hours later, you're hungry, your brain's fried, and it's just like, yeah, it's 2 shot and 2 close-ups. All right, next. And you don't want to get yourself to that stage. If you feel yourself like kind of getting automatic with it, if you feel yourself not able to to pull out something original, like go do something else for a while. And definitely like keep track of any thoughts that you have for the director and any questions you might have for them. So for me, I cooked up my own little system. I don't know that, like, it's not that mine's any better. It's definitely hasn't been, worked through by a large number of people. It's only worked through by me. So, you're probably going to come up with something better for you. I think the most important thing, though, is that you think about thinking about it. That you develop some sort of, system for yourself, where it's just like my daughter. When she gets her homework, it goes in one folder, and then when she's finished it, it goes into another folder. And she kind of has her way that she knows, like, oh, this is the homework I have to do. We have to be able to do the same thing. The assistant directors, they all have a system that's very much in place and very structured. And I think that it's nice to be able to use the things that they the same sort of mentality that they have to work for yourself. But at the same time, like, not every movie is the same, and you may come up with some kind of elaborate and complex system that it becomes more cumbersome than it needs to be. So it's finding something that's flexible, adaptable, and when I first started out, it was a notebook, a spiral notebook with a pencil, and each page was each page was for a location, and I just kept all the notes for that location on that page. And now I do it with the computer, but it's basically the same idea. So here's how I do it. It's what I do. You can do it however you want, but what I realized is when there are two things, there are two concepts. There's the idea of a location, which is the address. It's the physical place. Like, we're at the CreativeLive studio right now. This is the location. And then there's the set, which may be, like, in the case of Jessica's script, the set is the workspace, or the roof of the workspace. Those are the sets, and they're at the CreativeLive building. So the set is the place that's referred to in the script, and the location is the place that you actually go to shoot it, if that makes any sense. So what I do when I'm reading the script, I have a page where I'll kind of list all the scenes that we shoot at a set. So as I'm, like I've read the script a few times already, I've made my notes about the general ideas, and now I'm just going through and saying, okay, like here's everything that gets shot in the workspace. Here's everything that gets shot on the roof. Here are the things that happen in Dan's car. There's no scenes in our script about Dan's car, but I go through and so by the end of it, I have a page that has all the scenes for each set or I have a book that has all the scenes for each set on a page. And so now I have a place when I think of other stuff, that page becomes a place where I write all my notes. And so, the reason I do it this way is that usually there is a correlation between the set and the location. Sometimes, the interior of Dan's house might be a different, like across town from the exterior of Dan's house. But, if you break it down that way, when you're on the location scout, when you're standing there shooting it, all of those scenes tend to get shot together. So even before you've seen a schedule from the first assistant director, even before you've, before any of that stuff is done, you can be kind of putting together. You'll be able to anticipate not necessarily what day things get shot on, but what things get shot together. So that way, when you're standing there on the location scout, you can just open to one page in your notebook, virtual or real, and be able to have all the information that you've thought of and that you've collected and that you've assimilated, accumulated, all in one spot. And I think that, like for me, that took 10 years to figure that one out. But once I finally did, it was like, the clouds part, the sun comes out. It was amazing. So do this all before you show up. Like once, because the first thing that's going to happen when you show up, like for prep, is they're going to put you in a van and drive you around to all the different locations and show them to you. And so if you've kind of gotten this all done beforehand, as much as possible, you'll be that much more prepared. When they bring you to this, to some location, they say, all right, well, here's the church. You're able to say, oh, yeah, there's the wedding scene, there's the funeral scene. Like, I know all the things that happen in the church. And that's, it not only, helps you kind of, get up to speed really quickly, but it makes them realize that you know what you're talking about. So the other thing that you can do, and while you're kind of going through the script, is you can say, oh well, like there's the idea of sequences, like maybe there's flashback sequences in the movie, and so you can you can kind of keep track of those on your note page, like because maybe the flashback sequence requires special filters or a special camera, or you're using black and white film stock or something like that. Some again, like what our job is we take these kind of loose ideas and turn them into concrete physical realities. Like we're the ones who make the machine work with the, that creates this picture. So if there are specific things that you need to, to create the flashback sequence or the dream sequence or whatever, you want to keep track of what scenes those happen in, as well as kind of like how you're going to do it. So what I do on my breakdown pages is I have a page where I write the scene number, whether it's day or night, and a little synopsis of the scene, and then I have a place for notes to the different departments as well, including myself. And you don't normally need to write whether it's interior or exterior, because I make a separate page for the interior or the exterior, because those locations are often different. And so the other things that I write down kind of in the general notes, I get an idea of what the, whether it's what the mood or the tone of the scene is, like if there's anything special that happens there, whether I need to call out lighting effects, to make sure that, the electric department is ready if there's a TV gag or something that's going on. Is there lightning? Does an actor come and switch a light on and off? And for that matter, is there an opportunity, even if it's not in the script, for something like that to happen? And maybe it's the right thing to, that somebody can turn off a light at the end of a scene or something like that. And so you want to be ready to do that. If there are moving vehicles, like partly that's a speed bump for the production, but it also lets you know that there's going to be some time spent there, but maybe you need some special equipment for that. Maybe if it's a bigger budget thing, maybe you want an insert car, or maybe you need some rigging gear to stick the camera on the hood of the car, a cine saddle or something like that. You want to make sure you're keeping track of of special equipment that you might need like that. I think it's if you get too absorbed in kind of the story when you're reading the script, it's hard to think sometimes about all of the, like, okay, well, how are we going to get the camera to do the thing that we want it to do? And so I think it's important at this point in the script that you don't worry about like getting absorbed in the narrative, and worry about the nuts and bolts. So if there's trick shots, if there's going to be some concert lighting, any of these kinds of things, like it's kind of important to to make sure you're thinking about the what the script is implying, even if it doesn't state it specifically. I think about our script, like, would we, there's a pomegranate that sits on the table. Like, do we need a macro lens to get a close-up shot of the pomegranate? I don't know. I would ask the director, like, how close do you want to be on this pomegranate? And then maybe I would use, use my viewfinder app to figure out how close we physically need to be to a pomegranate, and to know whether we need to spend the money to order a macro lens, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that all this is to say, like, what the movie finally looks like at the end is, if you come at it as like that, what it's going to be at the very end, that and you kind of have to form it into, you're making it conform to something. Probably that something is something that you've seen before. And so you've watched, I don't know, all the Stanley Kubrick movies, and you've seen all the things that he's done, visually, and now, so your answer is, we're going to do a dolly shot straight in down the hallway here, and and you realize, like, where that visual is coming from is from something that you've seen before. And I think that it's important to remember sometimes that if you look at it from, what's the emotion supposed to be in this story? Where is the feeling coming from in this story? And and work at it that way. You may come up with something that you haven't seen before, or that's kind of the unexpected answer. And I think that that for me is more interesting. You want to think. So I try to think about, like, going through the process rather than thinking about what it's going to look like at the end. And then once you do come out the other end, sometimes you're surprised at by where your process has gone.